It is now 7:08, so I'm going to go ahead and get us started today. I will say that today's meeting is going to be a little less formal than some of ours. Our structure tonight is going to be a little bit loose, but as mentioned in the email earlier today, we've got a few things we want to touch on, and happy to have contributions from throughout the range of folks that come and attend tonight. The first thing I wanted to do is to recap the dues and rates for 2023 per the email that was sent out a couple of weeks ago. And for those of you that are on the call, there's a little twist that you're going to be the first to hear about here in just a couple of minutes. So as all of you know from our talks over the last couple of months and our emails, the financial situation has not been so great with the SGC in the wake of COVID and a lot of expenses stacking up. And we're trying to be very thoughtful in how we address that situation, make sure that we have a sustainable organization, make sure that we have an organization that is both covering our costs as well as delivering good value and is hopefully easy to interface with, whether you are somebody who only flies at Afreda all season long and that's your second home in the summer, or you're somebody who's part of another club. It's maybe only going to come out for one weekend or 1 week a year for a special event or an encampment. We really need to be able to appeal to that wide range of audience. And the sum total, I'm not going to take the entire logic that I laid out in the email and try to explain it here because we'd be here all night. But the sum total of all of those goals are how we ended up with our dues and fees structure as outlined a couple weeks ago in email and as you can now see on our website. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and show people that page on the website and just briefly talk through some of the items and take any questions that folks may have. And as I do this, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera so that I'm not distracting y'all from the presentation. This is possibly a little bit small for some folks, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit, but this is the SGC website. And I will go ahead and make it a little bit bigger, a little bit clearer. You can see I owe a little bit of money for my seasonal facility use. I will hopefully pay that here today. In any case, this is the SGC website. And if you go to the membership area, first of all, one tip for you that people may not know, when you hover your mouse over any one of these headings, there is drop down pages here, but also the item at the very top, you can click on that as well. For example, if you click on information, some people may not know, we have a lot of key information about our board of directors, key documents like our bylaws, articles, history information. It's all good stuff. One of the places you can click on right across the top of the menu is the membership area. And in here, we have our fees. It's all laid out. And the membership fees you either pay at the bottom of this page or by logging into your account and using the profile area up here. Or you can use the online web shop to pay for specific fees such as RV parking, glider and trailer parking, and facility use fees. This makes it easy and self-service for everybody. And if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to myself or any of the board members, and we're happy to help you out with this, as is our treasurer who's on the line tonight. Back to the membership fees. So first and foremost, the biggest changes we made were in our different categories of membership and in the prices that we are charging for them. More than anything else on this page, this is what has changed this year. And we changed it for a couple of different reasons. One, like I said, with inflation and changing costs, we need to make sure we are balancing all of those. We are a not-for-profit organization. We are not trying to make money off of anybody. Our goal is to be revenue neutral. So all these adjustments, I want to just put it out there for the record, all these adjustments are aimed at breaking even and not losing money, because if we lose money year after year, we go out of business. So first of all, we diversified the membership types that we offered. This is for a variety of reasons. One of them being that we want to reflect some of the membership types that people have come to expect with similar aviation organizations like the SSA itself or the EAA, where you have things like lifetime full memberships for longtime devotees to the organization, or people who want to express their support, or people who figure that they are going to be members for a long time, and so why not just pay once now and be done with it, right? And not have to chase this every single year. So that's the lifetime membership. We also want to continue encouraging youth participation. We want to make it as easy and frictionless as possible. As you already heard from Brian Hart, we have youth groups starting up with Hood River and hopefully more at other nearby clubs in the region. And we want to encourage them to come out, to use the facilities, to, if they're still student pilots, to help run ropes and participate in events, as well as to fly with us at events like the DustUp, and eventually, once they're licensed on their own, on regular weekend operations. And if we can help lower that cost just a little bit, then it probably makes sense for the rest of the membership, if you will, to pay an extra $1 on their memberships if it helps us get an extra 5 or 10 youth members out over the course of the year. We are not acting under illusions of grandeur that all of a sudden we're going to have 500 students show up and this is going to be amazing. But if we don't at least try and get at least a few students and a few new folks out there flying and participating in the sport, we know the sport is not going to last a long time, right? So this is a small way in which we can encourage participation by youth and to make it as affordable as possible without shifting the burden to other folks unduly. We've had the family membership. It's sometimes been called social membership or spouse membership. In the past, we just have decided to call it family membership. So it is not a new thing, but it is a thing that I think a lot of folks don't know about or never knew about. If you have a spouse, a partner, a family member who wants to be engaged in the organization, who wants to follow along or come out and use the facilities, who wants to vote and have a say in how the membership or the organization works, then we encourage those folks to join with a family membership. And that's perfect for those that want to be involved, like I said, don't necessarily want to fly at a freighter. Maybe they want to come and participate at the banquets. They want to come to our general meetings. They want to, like I said, have a voice in how the organization is run. We welcome them, and we'd love to have them. Lastly, up at the top, we have our regular full membership. This is the one that I think most people who've been with us for a while look at this $75 number and think, wow, that is a huge jump from previous years. Wasn't it only $35 or $40 before? And the answer is no, it's not a huge jump. What we've done is we've decided to try to simplify the process. If you look at our membership rolls, ROLLS, the roster, we have 120 to 130 members every year. Of those, perhaps 40, maybe 45 are people who are relatively local to the area and or fly regularly at a freighter as opposed to another home site. Those are the people who are, paying seasonal dues and fees, who are participating week in and week out. That means that we have somewhere on the order of 60 to 90 people, well over half the organization, who come out to a freighter, fly with us for one event or 1 or 2 weeks a year, and that's it. And if you've ever talked to those people, you'll find one of the main questions or concerns that they bring up the first time they come to a freighter is they say, wait a minute, I have to pay to join the club, and then I have to pay again to use the facilities. And they also have to pay for tows and they have to pay for their glider tie downs, but those are kind of self-explanatory, right? Most people get that, hey, if I'm going to have a tie down space, if I'm going to have an RV, if I'm going to take a tow, all those things I understand paying a usage fee for. But why do I have to pay for a membership just so I can also pay for facility fees and this other stuff? Now, logically, I can sit here and tell you all that there's very good reasons for the base membership fee. We have fixed cost overhead in terms of just running the books every year, managing our insurance, dealing with the cost of our technology, like having a website, having an online payment system. And even if we didn't have an online payment system, we'd still have to pay to deal with the mailboxes and the checks and all that stuff. So it's not like the technology is costing us extra money. I want to make sure I'm really clear on that. There's these base level costs. And if you only participate one time a year, 1 week a year, I think that's not as clear that what those costs are. And it's annoying to have to pay for the membership fee and then also pay for the facility fee and understand the two separate fees, and you pay them in different ways and sometimes at different times. And it's also a mess for our bookkeeping to try to track that down. And oh, who paid their membership fee but forgot to pay their facility fee for that 1 week they were here, and then we don't hear from them for 12 months, right? And that's not to cast aspersions on those people. It is legitimately confusing if you're not used to it. So we took a very close look at this and we said, guess what? Almost every single individual, with a few exceptions, which Brad has already brought up one, very few exceptions, everyone who joins as a full member in the SGC flies with us out in a freighter at least once during the year. It's pretty much, a guarantee, 90+% of the time. So why don't we simplify this? Why don't we just roll your first week of facility use into your membership fee? That way, if you are coming out for an event, if you are just coming to a freighter for the first time, it's one less thing to be hassled about. It's one less thing to be confused about. It's I show up, I join. If I brought a glider, I pay for the glider, I take my tows, I'm done, right? And on the flip side, for the organization, we don't have to comb through 120 names and go, ooh, which days were they taking tow cards or taking tows? And we have tow cards for them. And were they paying for those days for the facility fee? And did they do it when they first showed up? Or do we have to chase them? Right? There's lots of questions and churn and effort that's spent on this for very little gain. So if you look at our previous year's dues and fees, and you add in the weekly facility fee with the membership fee, you'll find out that this is a very small incremental rate change from previous years. It basically just keeps up with inflation. And like I said, the whole goal about this is to simplify dues and fees. If you're coming out for an event, you're coming out for just 1 week, great. You pay this, and then you pay for whatever glider you brought or whatever tows you take, and you're done. If you then stay and fly for additional weeks, or you decide you want to be involved for the season, you then do still pay the additional weekly or seasonal use fees, which I'm highlighting down here. Those have had a slight adjustment as well for inflation and rising costs. But we have also readjusted the target for the seasonal fee. So this seasonal fee takes into account, if you will, the fact that you've already paid for 1 week with your membership. So we've tried to be very balanced with this, and we've tried to ensure that this change in charging dues doesn't result in anybody being, quote, overcharged for an extra week. It's still, if you do the math, it still balances out to roughly the same number of week equivalent paying your seasonal fee. The vast majority of the rest of the fees are marginally changed from previous years. The tow rate is slightly adjusted because of gas prices and things. The RV parking spaces, we have slightly adjusted, and we've added this short-term option. This is for a couple of reasons. The first reason is because we do have more vacant RV spots than we used to. And we expect that those are going to come open here and there, not necessarily on event weeks. Those we're still probably going to have people paying for an entire week for those spaces. But if you are coming through town and you're just going to stay for a few days and you don't want to park at a Walmart parking lot in Ephrata, or you are coming out for just a weekend of flying and there's no flying operation during the week and that RV space is open and unused anyway, hey, let's make it cheaper and easier to get an RV spot for a weekend from us than it would be to pay for an RV spot over at the Oasis campground or some other location. One other note about the RV parking is that I don't know that we've formally discussed this with the membership yet or not, so I may be accidentally breaking some news here, but we have indications from the Port of Ephrata that their RV parking will be going away by the end of this season. So our RV parking associated with our facility for our members will be the only option at the airport. And again, we want to be flexible and encourage the use of it and not just have that ground, which we are paying a lease for, go empty and unused. Does anybody have any questions or concerns or anything that they'd like clarification on regarding the dues and fees for this year? Go ahead, Rita.
You mentioned the EV charge also. It's kind of in the RV section.
Yes, thank you very much, Chris. And if you use the web shop, by tomorrow morning, you'll see this as something you can pay just like RV parking stuff. This is to account for the fact that we do have, you know, electrical infrastructure and posts and things out there that people sometimes take advantage of for RV charging, or excuse me, EV charging. And we'd like folks to just pitch in a couple of bucks to make sure that as that gets used more and more and people are plugging in and unplugging and stuff like that, that they're helping offset the use and need for replacement over time for those systems. Go ahead, Rita.
I just wanted to ask if, like, I already paid a lot earlier the $40 membership fee. Is it set up that people who did that can make up for the difference through the website?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. So our treasurer, Randy Scott, bless his heart, went and looked at everybody's payments if they renewed late last year or very early this year and created individualized invoices for each of you and put them online so that if you log in to the SGC website using this little a button up here in the corner and log in with your user account information, you should see a little balance due down in the corner, just like I've got down here. And if you click on that, that will take you to that manual invoice with the balance owing for your account and your specific situation. So again, Randy, thank you very much for your efforts. He looked at exactly what everyone paid and exactly what they would owe at the 2023 rates and put that difference into an individualized invoice just for each and every one of you. If you have any questions or concerns or the number doesn't look right, I urge you to reach out to the treasurer at seattleglidercouncil.org email address, and Randy can help work through that with you. But we did spot check this, and everything looked good before we went live with these things.
Yeah, I don't see mine, but I will just check with Randy and figure it out.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, now we come to the moment where I actually do break some news. So I want everyone to be aware that the Seattle Glider Council has been informed that due to potentially our bylaws and also potentially due to the way that membership organizations work according to Washington state law, that changes to our membership types may need to be reflected in our bylaws. So tuck that in the back of your brain for a second. We have a member who is a legal professional who has brought this to our attention. Additionally, our bylaws state that we have to have an annual membership meeting every year by late February. And I want to thank Chris Clicks for bringing that to my attention as well. So what I am going to propose is that we combine these two things and we have an annual meeting of the organization. And in that meeting, we vote on a bylaw revision that codifies these new membership types of the lifetime membership and the youth membership, so that we are in compliance and that it is formalized the way it should be, because we need to run our organization professionally and appropriately. I do not have an exact date for that, but I'm going to go ahead and look at the calendar and talk to the board. We have a meeting on Wednesday, and I hope that by the end of Wednesday, I can send everybody who is an SGC member an email inviting them to that general membership meeting, or that annual meeting. The terminology is specific in our bylaws. We would like to make sure that everyone who is a current paid member can participate if possible, and if they can't participate, that in keeping with our bylaws, they can designate a proxy for voting on whether or not to approve this, so that we can do this all above board and by the book. So please stay tuned. I will send an email before midnight Wednesday with the details on the date and the time, the invite link, and also, if you can't make it, how you can designate a proxy to vote yay or nay on the membership category changes. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about that? Cool. All right. Hopefully I was either super clear or that's so dry that everyone's asleep. Thanks for bearing with me on that, folks. Like I said, we do want to be above board and operate things as well as we can. So with that having been done, let me go ahead and shift over to our second agenda topic for the night, which is an update on our clubhouse and some SGC activities to prep for the flying season. I know Kurt mentioned a few things that PSSA is doing, and we're probably going to sound somewhat similar. But I think oftentimes we're not, from like the board and volunteer perspective, we're not as communicative with the rest of the membership as perhaps we could be, to give everyone a sense of what's going on and what effort goes into getting ready for a flying season, and also give you guys an opportunity to potentially participate and help out. So having said that, I would like to put somebody gently on the spot, and if they don't want to talk about it, if they want me to summarize based on emails, I'm happy to do it. But Chris Clicks and Nan Clicks just got back, like literally, I think in the last couple of hours, from a 3-day trek to Ephrata. I think this is their third one so far this off season, and they have been putting in some remarkable effort to improve our clubhouse, to check the safety and operation of our Towplanes, and to prepare for their operation this coming year. And Chris, if you're willing to take a couple of minutes, and or Nan, to summarize what you emailed the board, that would be great. And if you would not like to, I totally understand, then I can summarize from your email, but I'd love to give you a chance to relay all the effort you've been putting in and let everybody know the awesome stuff that's going on. Can I ask you to talk for a couple minutes on that?
Sure. Actually, we came back last night. We went over on Friday with a utility trailer in tow. I took over a cabinet that we put in the hangar over there behind the Towplanes to store all our Towplane documentation in there. The logbooks and life folders will all be kept there, so it'll be easier for the tow pilots that it can check on the Towplanes and make sure that they're airworthy and signed off properly, and all their supplies and things that they might need can be kept in that cabinet. I also, Noel was very gracious to loan me his borescope. And so when I went over, I met with the mechanic over there, and on Sunday, actually, I went through and borescoped every cylinder on both tow planes, and I was just concerned that there were any signs of burned exhaust valves, which would be typical of operating at high power settings or towing gliders like we do. So I didn't see any signs of any burnt valves. They all look good. I talked to Scott. He is basically finished the 182 and just started the Pawnee annual and started on that. So I was able to go through and review all the records and get them organized. As far as the clubhouse, the facility, Nan's been really working hard on that. I don't know, Nan, do you want to say something there? She's behind me here, so.
I'm working on a list that I'd really like to have some work parties too, like in March, start early March. And I'm working on a schedule that maybe we could have some work parties over there. And so that once the season starts, we won't have such a workload to kind of catch up with. Trying to move the furniture around. We did take one of the couches, the small one downstairs, to the dump. The other one's gonna go as well.
The one that was in the office downstairs.
Yeah.
It was, we started to move it and it was like this cloud of dust that just stuck to your body. It's from probably 50 years of collection.
Well, it came from the old trailer,
Yeah.
so yeah, it was and
pretty
it's a
bad.
broadweed. It was unbelievable. I've never seen a piece of furniture act like that. But we can't get it out. I can't lift something like that, so we're probably gonna have to cut it, or we're gonna need more help.
Yeah, I'm not sure how we got it in that building. Maybe it was put in through the window before the window was even put in,
but the tow pilots, I'm interested in, what do the tow pilots need for that bunk room? I have some ideas about the office that needs to be more functioning. We're trying to come up with tables more where you can sit down, you have a table, and you also have a plug-in for your computer or your phone. Right now, it's just you're working off your lap, or you're having to sit at the kitchen table, which you can't plug in. So trying to come up with some different things there. Moving the art around. At cleanup at the end of last season, we did do a lot of cleanup, which was really good. So that was a head start. It's like the fans are all filthy. They need to be vacuumed out. I mean, it's just tons of little stuff that need to happen.
we also did some trimming on the fruit trees out there.
Yeah.
And so they look a lot better. Took it all to the landfill in Ephrata, along with the couch. The bin that we always had out on the deck with bottles and cans, we discovered that in Ephrata they no longer recycle. And when we took it to the landfill, they said just dump it in the landfill. And the container, that big barrel, was plastic. It deteriorated from UV and it broke when I did that. So I just dumped the whole thing. In the future, the cans and bottles just need to go in the garbage, in the dumpster.
Or you take them home yourself to recycle them.
And, anything else? We moved the big filing cabinet down in the bunk room. We emptied that out. It was full of Soaring magazines that Nan went through, and we threw out all the duplicates. She kept one set, which is actually now two sets because there is a bound set upstairs, but Anyway, we cleaned that out and moved that into the utility room where the water heater is. And go ahead and explain what you want to do.
So I'd like to use the utility room for putting the tools in there, the plumbing supplies, the electrical supplies. I could put the magazines back in, the ones that I kept, unless someone, I mean, I don't, anyway, if we want to keep them, I'll keep one set. There were like 4 and 5 sets of those magazines down there in that cupboard, jammed together. And then I'd like to use the small storage room for just the paint or stuff that you don't have to, you know, bend over at the waist and crawl around in there, that you're only accessing it, say, once a year. And that needs to be cleaned out as well. The office, we took the big map down off the wall. That was in the trailer too. That was on the wall in the trailer when I met him in 1982. So I don't think it's current.
The old clubhouse, which was a trailer.
Yeah.
Before our current training center.
The FAA updates its maps more than once every 40 years. Well, thank you all so much for that work.
It's a long list and there's more to go.
Yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done.
So you heard it here first, folks. Plenty of time for you to volunteer to help out this spring. Just to re-summarize a couple things at a slightly more big picture level. One, going back to what Chris was talking about with the storage now, the locking storage in the main hangar with the Towplanes. The reason this is such a big deal, for those of you that haven't ever messed with our Towplanes, is that before now, we had some supplies in the shipping container next to the RV parking, and we had some supplies for the Towplanes in the battery shed, and we had a couple of things in the hoppers of the Pawnee. And then we had the paperwork, some of it inside the clubhouse and some of it with our mechanic. And if our mechanic wasn't on site, we didn't have access to it. Now, almost all of that stuff is all in one place that's secure. It's right by the Towplanes. It's accessible by all of our tow pilots and indeed our members if you need it. This is going to make it easier, as Chris said, for tow pilots to have confidence that the right inspections have been made, that we log squawks, that we track things better, that if they need some oil or a spare tail wheel or whatever, it's just right there and it's going to be easy and more convenient to use. And I'm sorry, I have a barky dog in the background. In any case, that is all awesome. I think it's going to be a subtle but important benefit for both our, especially our Towplane pilots, but also all of our members.
Yeah, I'd like to also add that the mechanic has access to it as well. I've got a combination lock on there and gave him the combination so he can get the records, and it just works out a lot better for everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much. And Chris donated that locking cabinet himself, so thank you for that kind donation as well. To zoom out on the project that Nan was talking about with the clubhouse, first of all, not joking that there's definitely going to be opportunities to volunteer and help with the additional cleanup and organization this spring. But to give everyone a higher sense of what's going on here with the clubhouse overall, all credit to Nan. She's putting a ton of work into this. We've changed the way we operate out there, and people have changed the way that they use the clubhouse, but the furnishings and the arrangement haven't changed in like 20 years. So we are past due in recognizing, hey, how about we arrange the clubhouse in the way
training
it's being
facility.
used. Excuse me, training facility. Thank you very much, sir. We've changed the training. We've changed how we use the training facility. Let's make the layout match the way it's actually being used and maximize its functionality. And again, all credit to Nan for both recognizing this and spearheading the drive here. The end result of this is that when all of you start coming out to AFREDA this spring and summer, you are going to see quite a makeover. From changes in the art on the walls to changes in the way that the upstairs and downstairs are arranged to how you'll be able to use what's there. On that line, I would like to put out there to all of you that Nan is potentially looking for a couple of pieces of furniture to buy or have donated to help with this rearrangement. One of the key ones, and Chris and Nan jump in if I say this wrong, but we are intending to change up the furniture upstairs. When you first walk in the double doors, on your right is that long, or was that long, low couch. With the number of people now coming into the clubhouse who really, as Nan mentioned, want to charge their phone, charge their laptop, hop online and look at weather forecasts or do flight planning or upload their IGC files, rather than having a couch there and or a couple of chairs, it makes sense for us to put some kind of long table there, potentially like a bar top height table or like a cafe style semi-standing table that's long but narrow, and allow people to essentially sit or stand at that table. And it would be very easy for us to affix some tabletop power outlets and USB chargers at stations along that table so that people can walk in, sit or stand there, plug in their laptop, plug in their phone, and do what they got to do. At roughly the same size as what's currently being taken up, rather than fitting 2 or maybe 3 people on that couch if they're really friendly and they really don't mind how much it sags with 3 people on it. We could fit 4 or 5 people along that table, maybe even more depending on the size of the table we get. So, having said all that, if any of you know of such a table, again, something long, somewhat shallow or narrow, potentially like bar top height type table or cafe style table, please reach out to myself or Chris and Nan. Let us know, because that is something we're on the lookout for and something we could really use to help spruce up the place. And so to complete this vision of what the upstairs could look like in terms of a better place for pilots to use the tools and systems that they are already using and accommodate more people and also make it a pleasant place to hang out. Chris and Nan, did I miss anything, or is there anything else about the rearrangement that you guys want to mention before we move on?
The only other thing was that we also donated a round table with 4 chairs that we located in the far corner. If you come in the 2 doors, the double doors, and you look to the left, you had the long red couch there. We moved the short couch there and actually had the long couch facing that couch with the back against the long table. But in that corner to the left is the round table with 4 chairs around, which makes that whole corner more useful, and it would be perfect for an instructor with students to sit there. There's 2 outlets in the walls there for computers, and I think that will function very well for us.
Awesome. Thank you guys again. Really appreciate it. Again, if any of the rest of the members have ideas or opinions about how we can improve the layout and function of the training center, I didn't mess it up that time, Mike. Please go ahead and let Chris or Nan or myself or any other board member know. We'd love to hear your ideas and your opinions. Moving on in a slight way here, as I mentioned, I want to give people a little bit of an idea of what activities go into preparing for the flying season and getting everything ready for all of you to use, and also give you guys ideas of how you might be able to help out. We've covered the clubhouse a bit. There will need to be a clubhouse opening party Nan and I believe Dennis Vreeken are tag teaming facilities this year. Inevitably, there are small plumbing jobs. There's a little bit of cleanup after the winter needing to be done. And we will announce an opening date and some work party dates here in the next month or so, and would love to have your participation with that. In addition, we have people behind the scenes working to renew our insurance, to work with the Soaring Foundation on our lease, the ground lease with the airport, or the port, I should say. We have the Towplane annuals, which you heard from Chris, are underway. And we have various and sundry other little issues, insurance renewals being one of them. There's some adjustments and things going on this year for that. One of the bigger things that we have to do as prep for the season is to organize our calendar and our schedule for the season. And this is where I turn to all of you and I say, we are starting to get interest and inquiries from various individuals and clubs about what weeks they can have encampments and what events they can participate in. If you are a member of another club besides the Seattle Glider Council, I urge you to talk to your club's board now and figure out how you can coordinate with us, much as Brad and PSSA are doing with us. Thank you guys. So that we can get everybody on the calendar and we can fully support your organization coming out and taking advantage of the facilities and the Towplanes and everything we have to offer. We can work with you guys the more notice we have on helping to arrange Towplanes and Towpilots and deconflict schedules with multiple clubs potentially wanting to be in a freight on the same week if you get started early. So now is the time for you and your clubs to start figuring out when you can come, what kind of equipment or support you're going to bring over, how much participation you expect, and how we as the SGC can support and enable your activities there. Part of those activities, as you guys know, are organized or sponsored by the SGC Soaring Foundation, especially the DustUp and the Region 8 contest. And Mr. Bamberg, since I saw you on, would you be willing to spend a minute or two to let everyone know at a high level what some of the event activities are shaping up to be, and also an update on other SGC Soaring Foundation activities and plans as they're rolling forward this year?
Okay. So as some of you know, I raised my hand and volunteered to again be the DustUp coordinator as well as the Region 8 contest manager. And at this point, I am soliciting people to help with various sub-organizational tasks. We're not talking about people that are going to be necessarily doing all the work, but rather the people that are going to manage the individuals that we will work together. So, for example, Towpilot Wrangler for both of them, getting tow pilots out for the number of aircraft we have. In terms of the ground crew, I already have someone who's given me some idea that they would be willing to help with ground crews on both of those, but we're going to need ground crew. We have typically had things like donation dinners and other dinners, especially during the contest. We tend to have a breakfast for the tow pilots. So anyone that would like to reach out and just coordinate a small part of any of these events, the ones I am managing, I would appreciate very much an email, and you can use Mike B at seattleglidercouncil.org as the email address. I want you to know that the foundation, there are several of us on the foundation board, Henry and myself, and Phil. And we also are looking right now to have someone who can be our treasurer. So if you have accounting skills and are willing to volunteer, we have a very detailed list that Rita has given us so that going forward, we know what needs to be done when, but it's not an everyday thing. It's concentrated in certain times of the year. So if you have skills as in bookkeeping or accounting and are willing to donate some time, we could certainly use it. Lastly, an ongoing series of questions. What are we going to do about another DG 1000 or something like unto that? The board of directors is trying to figure out, number one, is if you're not aware and you're looking around, there aren't very many two-place gliders available on the market right now, at least in a price range that we can afford. And but we are working on a couple of different approaches to how we can make that happen. And so if you know about a two-place glider that is appropriate for cross-country training, because the SGCSF, it's based as a educational institution. And when we got the DG, it was specifically directed towards cross-country training. In the future, the process of that, the use of those gliders, if we get one or two, is not going to be restricted to a group of people. It will be available on a scheduled basis to anyone in the SGC at any time. So we're going to try to make that happen, but there are a lot of little bits and pieces that need to be made. It is going to be dedicated to cross-country training and exposing people to cross-country. That is to say, if you have no idea what cross-country is, come out and we'll give you an intro cross-country ride. But most every other flight that we foresee this glider making will have a defined purpose, each and every flight, and it will be directed by a mentor, and we're going to have a specific process in place for helping people become mentors, even if they're not flight instructors. At the convention coming up, there's going to be a presentation from the SSA Safety Foundation on the reinitialization of the cross-country soaring instructor program, which also includes the cross-country training program. And I just spent a couple of weeks last month rewriting the document so that it was more consistent. But it's going to be published. There will be copies available at the convention. And as soon as that's done, there'll be copies available on the SSA Safety Foundation website. And so if you want to know what we're going to be doing, that's it. Okay, questions for me? Going once? Ron, Ron, you need to unmic your phone, unmute your phone. There you go.
I got to push the right button. I'll be able to fly this ship soon. I just want to thank you for all that you have been doing behind the scenes in our conversations that we've had regarding the training and training tow pilots as well, and how we're going to pull so many more tow pilots and get them trained so that we've really got a roster for it. But I just can't congratulate you enough for all you've done so far in all this that you've just presented. So good job.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that training for just a moment. One of the things that I was very glad to hear from Chris tonight was that the 182 is ready to go. So Ron, you and I need to have a follow-up conversation now.
Yes, we do. Yeah, Chris gave me some insight on that a few days ago, and I was quite excited about that too. Okay,
so just so everyone else is aware, down at Grant County Airport, down at Moses Lake, one of the larger flight schools in the Pacific Northwest, Big Bend Community College, graduates private pilots and commercial pilots on a regular basis throughout the year. And like most wannabe commercial or airline pilots, they need to, whoops, there we are. They need to build hours. And Ron has agreed that if we train them correctly and we give them an opportunity, we will have at our disposal co-pilots that are 20 minutes away. And Ron and I still have to decide when we're going to turn on the faucet. But the point is, I've already been in contact with the school. I've already talked to a couple of the instructors there. They're more than happy to carry that information into the student body for us. And we hopefully will end up with at least 4 or 5. That would be what I would expect to have. And Ron and I have still got to finish out the minimum requirements that he feels we should be looking at, and that way I can tell them. But we expect to have that list by the middle of March.
Thanks, Mike. If I could just jump in with a couple of clarifying bits, and then Mike and Ron tell me if I misspeak at all. But for everybody else who maybe hasn't been in some of the same discussions we've had about this, I want to make sure that I expose a couple of points. One, we are having discussions, and we are aware that if we make our tow planes available to check out new tow pilots, that we're putting hours on tow plane and we're burning gas. And that this is not going to be a freebie where we are giving people free time in our tow planes, and there's no way we're making money off of those, or we're spending the money, we're not getting anything back, right?
Yeah.
We
Right.
have plans on that are yet to be finalized, but we are aware of that, and we're discussing how to make sure that we wind up with not only safe tow pilots, but committed tow pilots who are not, getting a bunch of free training from us and then disappearing into the ether, and we never get any value out of that. We've run into that in the past. We're working to make sure that doesn't happen again in the future.
Yeah, one of the techniques that the Willamette Valley Club uses is tow pilots, in order to receive training, need to put down a deposit, and that, I don't know what the current amount is. It used to be 200, but I'm sure it's higher now. And you'll get that deposit back after you do X number of tows. And I'd have to go back and see what those numbers are for Willamette right now. And just to put things in perspective, Willamette has a tow pilot cohort of about 15 people who fight over opportunities to tow. And so I think that some of the procedures that are being used there might be effectively reused in our process of getting tow pilots.
Yeah, definitely worth thinking about, because instead of it being vindictive, it's very positive and encouraging, because they're being rewarded. They're getting something out of it.
All right.
Chris?
Any other questions, comments?
I think Chris has his hand up.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that regarding the tow planes, especially the 182, that we're not getting ahead of ourselves. I went over there to evaluate it and talked with Scott, and he actually hasn't run the engine yet because there was a little issue with the back plate wasn't positioned quite right from the prop shop that overhauled the prop, but he thinks he can correct it without taking the prop off. So, and I wanted to bring it up at the board meeting and get the board members to really approve the 182 and make the final decision on whether we're going to sell it or use it as a tow plane. So I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here and say we're going to use it for towing yet, although that is my recommendation.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris.
Let me just add, one of the encouragement for me has been that you guys are taking such a positive step towards making sure that we've really got mechanically safe and well thought through procedures for the tow planes.
Thank you. And yes, just one last little tidbit on this. For those that are not aware, Mike Bamberg is not only, many of you are aware, an event organizer and a CFIG, but Mike himself has served as a CFI and a DPE for many years. And one of his former roles was to be an instructor at a flight school that was feeding pilots into professional careers. So he has a better understanding, I think, of places like Big Bend Community College and what the potential is for the tow pilots, their involvement, than a lot of other folks. And so we've got, between him and Ron, we've got the right people in the right positions, helping to drive this forward in a safe and positive manner with realistic expectations. And my thanks to both of you for all the effort you're putting in there.
We might get some glider pilots out of it too. Hopefully.
Always that chance.
We can certainly hope so. Dan, you got your hand up? Please feel free to chime in. Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Yeah, am I unmuted? There you go. Yeah, I just wanted to volunteer. I've got, I do about 100 hours a year of tail wheel. I've got my towing endorsement. If you need towing pilots, I'd be happy to help out.
Quick, somebody get a net. Don't let him escape.
Yeah, we're gonna hook you right away.
Okay, yeah, you get a hold of me.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Fantastic.
Really appreciate that.
Yep.
All right. Unless there's any other questions or comments on SGCSF activities, I'm gonna wait for a second to see if anybody jumps in.
Yeah, you knew I would. One of the things that Noel mentioned was trying to get a few of these general meetings, including some training for preparation for training and that sort of thing. As soon as we have a good communication capability, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, Google forum, whatever, there are a number of videos that I've produced in the past on cross-country training, and I'd be happy to make those available to people to start studying or and bring up questions. I'd love to improve them.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. And yes, one of the communications folks will see from me soon is a reminder about our SGC News Google group and improving the percentage of our SGC members and participants who are a part of that so that it can be sort of revived as a ongoing discussion and participation area for everybody so that we can all be a little more connected day to day, week to week. Speaking of being connected and sharing information, I will attempt to shoehorn that segue into our first open discussion of the night. This is an audience participation part of the show, so you all are welcome to start raising your hand to chime in. Thanks to Matt Coleman and our board for suggesting this idea tonight. What we'd like to do, kind of in this vein of getting ready for the season, starting to think about how we're going to fly and what we're going to fly and what things we're going to learn this coming year. We'd like to go around the room, as it were, and we'd love to have people throw out what their favorite sources of soaring knowledge are. Do you have a particular book that you just think everyone needs to read? Or do you have a presentation or a YouTuber or something that helped unlock some soaring skill or helped you understand a certain topic? We'd love to get that information shared with everybody as we're all still in this time period where there's not much flying going on, so we have more time to read and study and learn and be that much more prepared once the flying does start. So I will take the plunge and lead things off, and then if anybody does have something they'd like to share, you could just verbalize it If you want to pop on camera, you can pop on camera. If you've got a web page and you want to share that on screen, that's also awesome, whatever you're comfortable with. I'm just going to go ahead and share a couple as an example, and then I'm happy to pass the mic to somebody else. So the first, I'm going to do a threefer here. For those of you that don't know, Bob Wander is a nice guy who is big into writing both soaring books and sailing books. And he's run this little bobwander.com website for many years now. And he has these small books that are 10 to 20 bucks a piece, very affordable and easy to get. And I highly recommend 3 of his books for all of the pilots that I try to do cross-country mentorship with. The first one is called The Cross-Country Manual for Pilots by Dean Carswell. The second one is called Breaking the Apron Strings, Soaring Cross Country by Phil Petmecke. And I see some people are probably trying to write this down, so I'll slow down just a little bit, but I'll also say that this is being recorded and we'll have this available for people to rewatch here in a little bit. And I'll also try to put notes once this goes up on YouTube, summarizing people's suggestions. The third is The Art of Thermaling Made Easy by Bob himself. This one may not seem like it's cross-country related, but I will say that I have been surprised by the number of times I've hopped in a 2-seat glider with somebody who is I'm ready to go cross-country, show me how to go cross-country, and we go out, and after the first couple of thermals we try to catch, I realize there's still something we got to work on before we go cross-country, because it turns out being good at thermaling is super important to having the confidence and the ability to use lift as you find it when you soar cross country. So learning and reading up a ton about not only what thermals are, but how to effectively use them is super important. And this is a great kind of reference guide you can keep going back to for the basics over and over again. And the last one I'll point out here, it can occasionally be a little bit dry, but it's full of amazing information like this screen that I've got up here that talks about the massive effect in your turning circle based on small changes in bank angle and speed. It's by a guy named James Cooper, no relation to the James Cooper who flies with Evergreen Soaring. And the YouTube video is titled Thermaling Gliders, How to Get the First Turn Right and Maintain an Accurate Turn. I just recently discovered this video, but it's got some really good stuff in it. And between those, I think those 4 references are great foundational materials for getting going cross country. What about all of you? Doesn't have to be cross country related. There you go. I'll let Mike chime in just a sec. This could be cross country related. It could be contest related. It could be general soaring related, weather related, whatever thing you think is a good source of information for other pilots. Let's hear it. And let's start with Mike.
So let's see if I might have to turn off the. So this one is called Understanding the Sky by, I don't know how to get this thing to work, but by a gentleman by the name of Dennis Pagan, Pagen, Understanding the Sky. And I don't know that it's still in print. I ended up getting this one off of Amazon after someone told me how important a book it is, and it certainly is. It'll teach you a lot about what's happening in the air mass. And so that's if you look at one of my videos, especially the one called Hunting the Wild Thermal, I talk about some of the things that are in this book. The second one is called Winning 2, and this is written by George Moffett. And some of you may have been around soaring long enough to know that George Moffett was a 3-time world champion and a multi-time national champion. And this book is actually the second one. This is Winning 2. He had an original one called Winning on the Wind, published back in the 70s. This has been updated more modern. It's about a 2000 book instead of a 1973 book. But it still has a lot of good concepts about how to manage flight in terms of going somewhere and getting there quickly. And the last one I'll have to post somewhere else, but if you haven't read John Cochran's articles, one called Just a Little Faster, Please, and another one, Flying the McCready, based on unlimited altitude, and I can't remember the other aspect, but those are both good places for you to pick up knowledge, and I'll post them up on the SGC news site.
Thank you, Mike. Who else? Does anybody else? Feel free to use the little raise my hand button up at the top or bottom of your screen. Matt, go ahead.
All right. So what I got is, I don't know if many people read it, but it's Advanced Soaring Made Easy by Bernard Ecke. You can get it at Wings and Wheels. I just looked. It's $79, but it's pretty thick. But great reference. Everything from meteorology to aerodynamics to cross-country philosophy, advanced soaring, flying with the different techniques for flying with flaps, how to use those to your advantage. It's just a good book. It's seems to be written at the right level. It's not too basic, but it's not going to kill you with too much advanced math and other stuff. Lots of pretty pictures in it. It's color. It's just overall a good book. I'm gonna put a echo in for the James Cooper videos. He doesn't have very many, but the ones he does have are pretty informative. And then probably the favorite YouTube channel or person I like is the YouTube video series called Chess in the Air. I can't remember the guy's name that does them. Just search for Chess in the Air, and he does a phenomenal job of breaking. He'll compete in a contest, and he'll go back and do a kind of a analysis of why he made the decisions that he made. He'll match it up with the other contestants and the decisions they made, and whose decision was better and worked out better in the end. Just great analysis. And he's got tons of videos on that site. So those are my two recommendations.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, Clemens Cepek is the name of the guy who does Chess in the Air.
Okay. All right.
I've flown contests with him, and he is a really awesome dude. And I'm very jealous that he was able to retire from his tech job a little early and do what he does, because he's living my dream, right, doing that stuff. But you're right, he's got a talent for breaking stuff down and giving you great information.
I've got a few more, but I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, and if nobody mentions them by the time we go all the way around the room, I'll bring up a few more.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. Zoeb, go ahead. What do you got?
Hello. All right. I think few that one was Bob Wendred, which Noel, I know you mentioned as well, but I think I really like how it's smaller topics and like easy to read as well. And I think it's like very targeted in terms of that topic as well. So that's one recommendation. I think just like +1ing on that. The other one is on YouTube. There is this person, I think Bill Palmer. He has few good tutorials that I've been finding useful for like intro to thermaling and some other kind of how SQT, how to read SQT graphs. So I like that. He also has a website, thesoaringpage.com, which is kind of like, I think his all the bookmarks basically, like he or all the various places across internet that he found useful, and I think it's that has like links to various other tutorials or various other blog posts that he found as well, and I think I like that. I think I wanted to the Chess in the Air. There's also the chessintheair.com. I think it's done by the same person, the website as well, and I think he writes up a blog on some of the topics that he discusses on YouTube as well. And I think finally, I don't know if someone mentioned that was the Soaring engine series. I've just started that. I think the first one. I really like how like illustrated, like all the illustrations in it have been pretty helpful to kind of. I'm more of a visual learner as well, so those books are pretty nice in that. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you. Good stuff. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I again the Soaring engine ones that was just mentioned by G. Dale. I found those books. These right here are very easy to understand, and he's an excellent writer. And just I love those books. Also, Sebastian Kawa, who is the most winning soaring pilot in the world. This is an excellent book by him. It starts out by talking about how he competes in sailing, sailboats, and then it transitions into sailplanes. And it's just, I learned a lot from him, I think. One more thing, on the videos, one that I saw recently is called, it's a German guy, it's Alpha 3, and he flies an Alice 5. And it's his latest videos are called Good Takes and Mistakes, and he describes his mistakes very well, and it's excellent on mountain flying in the Alps. So I really like those videos. Nan wanted to say something too.
Yeah, I want to plug the training center library, in the hall. There are 3 bookshelves. I've pulled them all out and organized them. The first group is I put them by focus. So if you're looking at weather, I've tried to put the weather books together. Anyway, all soaring. The second one is more or less by author. And we have a lot of books in the 5 to 6 volume range. So there's more than one. So multiple people could take advantage of some of those books. Just a plug for the training center.
Something to do if you go out there and the soaring weather isn't quite as strong as you expected. You can still learn and get good stuff. Thank you, Nan, for the organization as well. Just to tag on to what Chris said, G. Dale, I had a chance to hang out with him when I was in New Zealand, and unfortunately not fly with him, but he's a really interesting character, really good guy. He has a few YouTube videos. He tends to record them with the British Gliding Association and with some Australian groups, so they aren't under his name. But if you just do a general YouTube search for G space Dale and glider or something along those lines, he's got a great one on bailouts and safety. He's got another one on, I think it's called Soaring Presentation Part 1, where he just goes through some cross-country stuff. Good to seek out whenever you can find it. Does anybody else have a source, an author, or a particular item they want to highlight for everybody? Ah, come on, there's got to be more out there. Folks have stuff they like. Anybody? Well, Matt, you had said earlier that you'd be willing to jump back on. I think now may be your moment.
All right, I was just jotting down just some of the other sites and stuff I go to a lot. There's another YouTube channel called Pure Glide, and that's he's an Australian glider pilot, CFIG, and he's got a lot of videos on just different techniques, thermal entries, flying with flaps, things like that. And then he'll also go and do break down glider accidents as to what happened and what could have been done better in those. So it's pretty interesting. But that's Pure Glide. Then there's another South African glider club. They have a strong accent. They pronounce it like Maghalies, but it's Magalies Glider Club. They don't have too many videos, but the videos they do have on there are pretty informative. A lot of cross-country theory and all the math behind, speeds to fly and other cross-country stuff. Some stuff on some how to use ODIs, however you say that. And a couple things there. And then the last couple I have is the Soaring the Sky podcast. That, just whatever you use to get a podcast, just search for Soaring the Sky. It's not a lot of technical information, but it's just a lot of more storytelling, interviews, and things like that. So you're not going to learn how to fly cross country on them, but it will help you motivate yourself to learn to fly cross country on those, is the best way to describe that. And then the last two I just kind of consider entertaining and not really educational. Two YouTubers, they're both German. There's Stefan Langer and Juliet Sierra. I don't know what her real name is, or if that is her real name, but she goes by the YouTube name Juliet Sierra, and they just go and kind of do video blogs about their glider activities all around the world. Again, you're not going to learn anything, but if you want some cool gliding videos, those are two worth checking out. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Matt. Mr. Bamberg. Mike, you may be on mute.
Yeah,
No.
there I am.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
One of the things, putting another hat on, one of the things that we need to do is figure out what kind of training events besides DustUp people would like to come over to Freda to participate in, either from a lecture flight basis or something like that. So if you come up with any of those ideas, please forward them to me or to anyone on the board so that we can see if we can arrange to make that happen for you.
So, Noel?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to mention or remind us all of the Condor. And I know that Mike has used Condor quite a bit and has instructed a lot of guys. I've had a number of students who have come to me and have had Condor opportunities, and it's just amazing how much more they understand and can perceive as we're talking about it, because they've had a chance to actually do the Condor activities.
Thank you, Ron. That's excellent to bring up. Just real briefly, for those that are not aware, Condor 2 is the current version of the software. Condor 2 is a soaring specific flight simulator. It's got a few quirks, and it's not a game, it's a simulator. So you have to do a little bit of work to set it up to make it work for you. But it is an excellent way to gain seat time and to stay proficient, especially in the off season or when the weather's bad. And yes, Mike Bamberg not only has instructed and helped out with that, but I believe he currently still runs a server, and every week or two changes up the task on the server and has sort of an informal, almost like a contest, but more just group flying events in the off season where you can join on certain nights and all fly online with each other and chat. And it's a really great way to keep the winter blues at bay, so to speak, and to keep your stick and rudder skills just a little bit better over the winter. And if anybody is curious to learn more about Condor or to try it out, it is, I think, tremendously valuable when used correctly. And Mike or myself, or I believe a couple other folks, would be happy to help you out with that. I know Evergreen Soaring, for example, has a Condor simulator rig in their clubhouse. And you don't have to get that fancy with it, but it's a very nice resource they have for their members.
Willamette Valley is setting up one of the Mach 1.8 or whatever it is, or 0.18 simulators from Wings and Wheels. So we have that. And if you're going to the convention, I'm going to be down there with Wings and Wheels demoing their installation of Condor and giving people an opportunity to try it out on the simulator that Sean Frankie and Wings and Wheels is going to set up.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah, Mr. Jonathan, is your dad still on? I guess not.
No, yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Why don't you tell us what you're doing with that?
Oh, Condor? Well, I'm not a pilot, but I'm beating Jonathan in the contests. He keeps running.
Yeah, you almost beat me.
Yeah. Well, the first time Mike set up a contest that was out of Hood River to Goldendale Hood River's Trout Lake, Goldendale and back, and it just happens that Jonathan and I had been working through the details of that very flight as in prep for some of Jonathan's cross country flights this spring. So I beat everybody, but then I crashed when I landed. And we're setting up two at Hood River too, by the way. We're going to set up a pair of those as part of the training for the students up here.
Yeah, and you're also having the Condor night at your house.
Oh, that, yeah. We've had all the kids, all the Hood River kids
Oh, that.
come over. That one. And actually, I found out I can make a server on my own computer here. So we flew with Fox Gossett last week. We made a contest in Slovenia because he didn't have the Cascade landscape. But it's a ball, and the kids are all learning a lot. And I'm getting sucked into maybe becoming an actual pilot one of these days.
Well, it's experience that'll stand you in good stead. That sounds awesome. So, speaking of this sort of participation, and tagging on to Mike's comments a few minutes ago about participation and events beyond the DustUp, in the closing couple of minutes here tonight, for those of you that are still online with us, I'd love to open up the floor here. And as you know from previous discussions, one of the important things for us this year, and I cannot overstate this, is to really try to drive increased participation. We have tow numbers that we really need to try to hit, and that means making it appealing to come out to a FREDA, both in terms of the environment, like the changes that are being made to the clubhouse, as well as to our operations and to the value and types of experiences we can offer to people. So if any of you have been thinking, man, I wish they would just do this, and then I'd come to a FREDA more often, or I think people from my club would come more often, or that would pull in additional pilots from the region. Now is the time for your ideas to help make a positive difference for all of us. Does anybody here on the call tonight have any of those thoughts? Do you have anything that's can kind of chewing away in your brain and you just, man, I wish they would just do that, or man, why don't they try this? I would love it if you'd be willing to come off mute and let us know your ideas.
Well, no, it's Brian. I'm all for a junior contest one of these years. We're going to have some Hood River kids up there, and we should. I know if I open my mouth, I'm going to end up having to be the junior contest director or something. But I won't do that. But we're going to try to get the kids up as warm up for DustUp. The SSA will sponsor juniors by reimbursing something like 80% of their contest fees. They don't necessarily have to be in a separate contest. But if there's only one junior in the contest, it's hardly a junior contest. But anyway, I think that just needs to be sanctioned ahead of time and listed by the SSA. So I maybe could help some with that, but that's more of a contest thing than it is a Brian thing. But that, and then the other thing is, if Hood River Soaring, for example, wanted to come up for a weekend, where do we find out the entire formal process for doing that? Do we supply our own tow pilots? Do we use yours? I'm completely green, but I'm trying to sell this to Hood River.
Thank you. You have raised, I think, a very good point, which is that I don't think we have a publicly posted set of steps for a club to come to a FREDA. It's always been a bespoke, well, your board talks to our board and we work things out. And that works, but I think some standardization would be great. So I don't have an answer for you right now, but I'm going to take a note of this and get back to you, and we will try to standardize this and make it a more open and understandable process for every club to know. What I will say is that typically, we're happy to provide the Towplanes as long as we're not in the middle of sponsoring a different event like Metow or something like that at the same time. And that for tow pilots, they have to be checked out on our equipment, but we typically do ask the organization coming to AFREDA to help in recruiting the tow pilots in for that event, because they are likely to understand as much, if not better than us, how many folks they expect to show up, how many tow planes they therefore might need based on how many launches they're going to do a day or what type of flying they're going to do. It is certainly something we can work hand in hand on, though. We don't expect somebody from another club to just automatically know who is checked out in an SGC tow plane and when are they available and how do I contact them. That stuff we can work with you on, and that's something we can't just obviously publicly post everyone's name and telephone number on the internet. We're not a big company like the Googles and the Facebooks of the world who can do that with impunity. We have to be more careful about that. But we'll work on getting you guys some more guidelines and process better defined on that. In the meantime, certainly feel free to reach out to any of the board members or all of us by using the email address sgcboard@seattleglidercouncil.org, and we can begin working through all of that with all of you.
Hey, Noel, this is Jim.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that I think that the ability to get a tow pilot out there is a whole lot easier when there's guaranteed to be at least a half dozen tows or more. And so that will really help provide some encouragement in getting tow pilots out there. There's always kind of been the issue of the chicken and the egg, but if you're guaranteed to have a dozen tows out there, boy, that really makes the case for heading out east and doing that. And I'm there 100%. The other thing I want to do is commend Mike Bamberg and also Henry Reback on their work in the foundation. I really appreciate them stepping up. And I think also it's a fundamental shift, which might sound a little bit subtle, but in my opinion, I think that is an excellent idea, getting away from a syndicate and actually opening up a two-place glider for cross-country to everybody that's a member of the SGC. All the more reason to join the SGC, to give access and provide cross-country training. That's what it's all about. So kudos to you guys, and let's go make it happen. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, all it takes is two-place gliders on the market and a little bit of money. So find somebody with a two-place glider that's in great condition, convince them to get out of Soaring and give us their glider or sell us their glider, and we're good. On a slightly more serious note there, first of all, thank you for your comments. I appreciate it very much. And I want to echo your sentiments out to everybody who is listening to this live or in video replay. The way we get 6 or 12 tows out at AFREDA on a weekend is to coordinate. Again, stay tuned for a message from me to encourage folks and give you instructions on how to join the SGC News email group if you're not already on it. And let's try to start using that as a hub for communications. And if you're thinking about going out to AFREDA, a week ahead of time or 2 weeks ahead of time, start up a conversation online and say, hey, who wants to go out there and give this a shot? Let's go out. Let's make plans. We'll all cook dinner together. We'll all buy dinner. We'll, wrangle a tow pilot. Just a little bit of coordinating and camaraderie, I think, goes a long way towards making this stuff happen. And thank you for pointing that out, Jim. I will also say with 6 or more pilots out there, it's a higher likelihood that somebody takes pity on the tow pilot and buys him dinner, which is also always appreciated by the tow pilots. Does anybody else have any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions on ways we can improve participation? All right. Well, for those of you that
Oh,
are either seeing,
no.
Go ahead, Ron.
I just want to reiterate that the best way is for us to actually prove that we have put our money where our mouth is. You know, that we really do get the Towplanes up and running, that we really do have, and Nan and Chris have just done a fantastic job of making it even more delightful to be there, just so much more organized. We'll be able to, but I think just a tip that we need to be sure that we put our money where our mouth is, and that's going to generate the interest and the excitement.
All right, sounds good. Follow through, both for those of us on the board, but also for all of you pilots when you commit to coming out. Really appreciate it. For those of you that have ideas that are not comfortable speaking up right now, please feel free to email them to us. For those of you that may watch this recording later, again, please feel free to email us or bring up your ideas on SGC News. We're happy to hear them. I may be doing a lot of the talking here, but I am just a member like you guys, and we're all doing this together, and we all have different things we can bring to the party here. So my thanks in advance to all of you for helping out this year. Stay tuned for some of these emails coming from us soon, and we will look forward to ramping up here shortly. And for those of you that are going to Reno, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.